Alright, welcome back to the channel. We got a few different things here overall. We got a new package for the front of the windshield, so it actually looks complete again. And then we have something else for this broken POS in this corner. So we're going to go ahead and get our PTFE lines configured and set up. We're going to get our -6 lines ready to go, lined up, put on here. We pulled off all the hard lines that were coming off here before, so we're going to pull those, we're going to make our lines and then run them down to the fuel filter, go down, come back. We won't be able to complete it fully, but we'll be able to at least get the run line, is my guess. So yeah, we'll get that part over there so we can get it in the engine bay. I won't have the intake manifold for probably a couple weeks, so waiting for the powder coating to be finished, and then yeah, we can throw it in there and we should be back in business once we have it back. Additionally, my wife got a new car. She got a Hyundai Iconic 5. So I'll show you guys that car. We'll do a walk around everything for that car in the next video. But yeah, we'll have a full electric car. So this will be my first experience with a full electric car. I've driven it over the weekend. It's pretty cool. It's pretty nice. It's pretty roomy and spacious compared to her Mazda CX-5 from before. So it's pretty cool. But from what I had from the last CX-5 were door protection. So a little door edge, essentially just rides, and I'm going to put it on this car. Essentially it'll be right here, run on the edge. The old stuff that I used to have was just way too thick, way too thick. Here it is. So this was, it's super thick when it comes off, and not exactly what I'm looking for. I'm looking for super small, thin and transparent, and this should do exactly that. So we'll see how that goes. I also one day want to wrap these mirrors just to kind of protect them, because I had a rock chip in that one for a while, and I don't want any more rock chips. So a lot of things going on. But yeah, once we get the intake manifold back, we'll put that in there. I need to get a couple things before that actually goes back in, so should give us some time to knock out a few other things. But otherwise, yeah, let's get going. And as we've done so many times before, making ORIENT lines. So we'll get back to the video once I'm done making all these. All right, so where the lines are gonna go, pretty much where the hard lines used to be, which is fun because you can't see anything. You're just kind of feeling for it. So you'll basically line up where you're pushing your AN line, push it all the way back, push it down, and then you're gonna go around. You're gonna go all the way under here, and then you're essentially going to, oh, almost fell, pull it from the top down, so that way you get it down here. Hopefully the next time I do this, it'll be a little bit easier for the second line. But yeah, that's pretty much what you need to do. So I'm gonna basically pull this all the way through, so that way it's just close to the edge up top. I'll tighten it on there, keep pulling, make sure there's enough slack for the other part, and then cut it. Oops. Oh, we got it pulled all the way out. And just for documentation, this side on the left here, if you're looking at it from the front to the right, is your feed line. Other one is the return line. Feed, sorry, you can't see that. Feed, return. Feed, return. So we got one on. The return line, we'll have to stretch the whole thing all the way out and feed it back up, but let's see what we can get done for the feed line. And then that's going underneath the car, coming all the way back, and I had to redo it so many different times. Let me show you. This ain't just an easy peasy lemon squeezy type scenario. Here's an example of when things go wrong when you try and put PTFE lines together. This is where I cut it because it's nice and smooth, but every time trying to put the lid on it, it's just so tight that it messes it up. So I had to take little chunks away, but we were able to make it at least come all the way back, and it looks like it'll still fit for what we're trying to achieve. My light is probably dead now. Yeah, it is, because I left it on all day. But here's the line itself. So this will come right up here, and go across. So we're gonna get this put back up there, and then we should be good to attach it for good. There we go. I opened the garage door. So this is the feed line. It comes just far enough. I can stretch a little bit just to make it fit. So we should be okay, but we'll put that on, see what we got here in a second. So we have it attached. It's sitting up there, it's sitting pretty. The line underneath still dangling, so that'll get fixed up, and that'll give us a little more slack for both sections to just keep it smooth, make it easy to deal with. So now we need to run the line from the top down. That's gonna be a 45 that goes in, and then the 90 that goes down and out. So cool, let's get it going. All right, cool. So we got our initial feed line done. So we're going to attach this down, attach it down there at the bottom, and then the feed line system should be completed. Then we just need the intake manifold so we can put everything back together, and then either cut the return line to a different distance or keep it where it's at. But let's throw this on real quick just so this is out of the way. So don't judge me, but this should make it easy to pull this all the way through. Just attach it to the return line, and then we should be able to just yank it up slowly but surely. And it worked. Thank goodness. What a pain in the ass that would have been. Nice. So we got our lines on officially for good. Need to tighten them down still. So I'm gonna do that here in a second. But now we have this coming down to from a 45, which I kind of want to go with a 90, but we'll see if it leaks or anything. If it leaks, I'll change it to a 90. If it doesn't leak, we'll leave it at a 45. I thought it might come down a little different at a different angle, but yeah, seems like it's doing okay. So, and then this will have the 90 on it, which we just took off to make room. So put that back in a second, and then got a run for both underneath. I have some separators, so the AN lines, because they're known, if they're right on top of each other, they'll rub, and then they'll just cut through one another. So I have a separator to go through, and I'll probably tie into the frame rail underneath. 2 or 3 different connections for down there, the fittings themselves to come all the way up. We'll come here, that line is still there from before, come across, and then our return line is down there that we're gonna pull up. So almost there. Then we're really just waiting for the intake manifold to complete this part of the process. So if you ever need to essentially reuse your AN fittings, like I made a line with this before, took it off, you can reuse the olive and everything. You pretty much will need to put it in something that you can clamp it on, and then you'll twist it. That way it'll twist all the way off, and eventually it'll break free. It's hard to do by hand, so if you have something to squeeze it in, it usually makes it easier. But that's how you can reuse them. Boom. All right, so I'm changing some stuff out. I'm actually going to have the return line come here, or sorry, the feed line come here, return line go back out that way, go back down, hit the flex fuel sensor, and then go out. So I'm basically gonna take this off. I think the fittings are the same for this and for this. So I'm gonna take this off. We'll find out here in a second. And then we can place that up here, hopefully. Have the line on 90 just go right there at the top, and then have our 90 here. And then it'll be right here in this back corner instead of anything being up here, because I do have a variable TPS sensor I want to use, and that's kind of being blocked because of how far out the line gets pushed. So yeah, let's go ahead and get this going and see if we can't get this situated. All right, so got this line, this piece out. I have another one that's broken, so that's the only reason I took this one out. But I believe same fitting, nice. All right, cool. So then let's get my pipe thread sealant. Throw that on here, right for this part, and then this part, because we're gonna put a block off here, and then we should be good. Let's get to it. Boom, so put our fitting in here. If it leaks, we'll just tighten it down a little bit more. The rest of them seem like they go on a little bit tighter, but again, we shall see. And then we have this blocked off all the way. So now, this is our rail, and we have plenty of room for a variable TPS now. So let's throw this back in and then we can get our lines actually routed correctly. All right, so ignore me, because last time I actually had this straight line going to the feed line, which is inaccurate and backwards. Feed line now, like I said, removed this, blocked it off, so that way that's out of the way. Feed line's now gonna hit this, go in, leave here, and then, yeah. Then it'll go back down, and then that will be the return line itself. So now that we have that out of the way, the feed line, we now have a 90. I love how it just pops up. That's just long enough to reach that, assuming that the manifold isn't in the way or anything. And we should be set to place that in. So cool. Now we're really just waiting for the manifold for this portion of it so I can complete all that. But we will have room for the TPS, the variable TPS now. Now we're gonna go ahead and keep moving forward with the last few items that I need to install, but I still need to open them first. So let me get to them. And then we also still need to figure out a location for our flex fuel sensor. So that is the hardest part of this so far, is trying to find a location for that. So, all right, so it appears I have found a location to mount this underneath the car, which will kind of be closer to the fuel rail, or sorry, the fuel filter. So the only difference I need to do is just drill out this hole to be a little bit bigger than what the original one is. So these are gonna be M8 bolts, essentially. Fits through, no issues on this side. It will not fit through in the stock configuration of this flex fuel sensor. So we're pretty much just gonna drill out the other side so it's the same size, and then I'll show you where we are mounting it. This is the hardware. I found some hardware I had lying around. Pretty much an M8 bolt. It's gonna be M8 by 1.25 is what the thread pitch is for these. So in case you need to find some bolts, it's pretty much reusing the stock location for where all the rails were mounted underneath the car. Since I don't have any of those other than the brakes, I'm not too worried about it. So I'm basically going to reuse that location for this. I think I'll need to drill out one of these corners to be a little bit elongated so I can move it over a smidge, and then we should be solid mounted. But yeah, let me get going on getting this drilled out. So right where, move this stuff out of the way. So right here are the connections that we're going to try and utilize. That way it's nice and far back. It's going to be higher than the frame rail, so there shouldn't be any issue with it getting smacked or anything. But yeah, now we can try and put it on there and attach it, hard mount it so it's a little further and out of the engine bay. Thank goodness. So stand by. Probably won't be able to see much of a difference, but I drilled the holes even bigger, so I have a little bit of wiggle room around. So now we can actually attach it back up top and see where we get. And it looks like we're able to get it connected up with no issues. So we'll go ahead and just bolt this in. This way I don't need to drill any more holes. And it's solid mounted. So now we just got to figure out which one's our return line. I think it's this one. And chop-a-dee-doo-dah to make these work. One out of the way, one more. Okay, so we have our flex fuel sensor right there. It's the right brake line. Flex fuel sensor right there. We have our two lines that are already cut in the middle. So we should now be able to get under here and thread each one of these on for both sides. So let me get that on and then I'll show you the aftermath. Okay, cool. So now we have our flex fuel sensor. This is our frame rail. Pretty much if anything is getting destroyed, it's going to be my exhaust. That is apparent. But otherwise, yeah, flex fuel sensor is attached straight through and through. Now we just need to get the wiring hooked up and then we should be done with all this, and really just waiting for our intake manifold before we can fire the car back up again and test out everything, make sure there's no leaks. Fingers crossed, no leaks. So. All right, new day, new thing that we're going towards overall. So right now I'm working on the flex fuel sensor and trying to get the wiring set up. So I'm going to wire it to the fuel pump section. I got to relook up the wire coloring for this, but I'm going to hire it up to there so that way it's key on, key off, That means the flex sensor will be on when the key's on, flex sensor will be off when the key's off. So that way it's not draining the battery, but I'm just gonna fish it through same way that I did since it's underneath the car, that I did for the AN lines. So I just tied it to a carabiner, taped it around, and then I'm gonna drop it through one of the holes. Hopefully it goes right underneath, and this is long enough so I can run it underneath, run it back up, and then connect it to, or splice it into the existing wiring. So let's get started. So I was able to get it to come out here. It's not the exact location as the other ones, but that's fine. We'll get that. We'll solder up one piece because we need to actually attach it. We're out of ground materials, so no big deal. Solder that, put that on there, and then we'll run it underneath the car, attach it, solder that, heat shrink it, and then we'll be set. So, all right, so just for the connection of this should be a 12 volt here on the right, just so this is how it gets plugged in, but 12 volt on the right, ground in the center, signal on the left. So hopefully that works out, and then we'll see what we got. So pretty much gonna solder this off the car, and then I can just plug it in and we should be set. All the wires are pre-ran at this point, so we should be good there. We just need to connect those up to everything else. And I pulled it back out to make a little harness, so that way it's just looks nicer. And if it hits anything underneath the car, it won't rip it right off, hopefully. So yeah, easy peasy. Solder joints in, no need to heat shrink it, and then we can connect everything back up. All right, so we're wrapped up now to a degree. Pretty much we have the bottom connection where the flex fuel sensor, which is way under here, which you can't see. There's no light. Hang on. Okay, a little bit better. So we have the flex fuel sensor that's under here. Now that wire runs up behind the same cubby as the rest of everything else fueling related is, then that will hit the fuel filter, go up into our little cubby that we have for everything else, and then now we still need we need to cut this is super long for a wire for power and ground, and then the other wire for the signal is up. It's in here, came out, came through all the way up. Now we went from the door down and under, we were under, all the way through the carpet, up here, up to make it square. So now we just need to solder it in, and we'll be set. Besides adding the power to it. So cool, let's finish this up. We finally have everything connected, soldered in, wired up. So we're just gonna connect this. So once we have the power, we're not waiting on that, but we have everything should be connected and ready to go. So cool. So I'm using the trigger wire, which is the blue, for the power. So that way once I turn the car on, power should hit that, kick on the flex fuel sensor, and then the other is just normal ground. So that should be ground up pretty easy. The trigger's already down, so we'll leave this open for now. Leave the underside open and available for now. That way when we actually get to test it, when we get the intake manifold back, we can just validate everything's looking good and working like it's supposed to without leaks. So before I put everything back. But yeah, man, another step out of the way. Once we get the intake manifold back, we'll be able to slap that back on, put it back together. We got a couple more things to do before we get that back and put it on. So next week video, you'll see what I have in these next few boxes. But aside from that, stay tuned, like, comment, subscribe. I'll catch y'all on the next one. Adios.